Hi, welcome to Beyond Politics. I'm Catherine Clark. Ontario Conservative MP Larry Miller is pretty much what Canadians want their MPs to be. He's decent, he's hardworking, and he's earnest. He loves his job, but for this farm boy from Wiarton, Ontario, what he misses the most are his family and his friends. But he joins me now to talk all about his life beyond politics. Larry Miller, welcome to Beyond Politics. Thank you for being here.
My pleasure. Thanks for having us.
Now, where did you grow up?
Where did I grow up? I live about 5 miles right now from where I was born and raised. And other than coming here to Ottawa for our time down here, it's the farthest I've ever lived away from home for any length of time. So.
And home was a farm when you were a kid?
Yes, I was raised just about 5 miles southwest of Wharton, Ontario, the home of Wharton Willie. Not far from Lake Huron, Georgian Bay right there. We actually live right on Culpoise Bay, which is part of Georgian Bay right now. But
it must be beautiful.
It is. It's a beautiful area, but you know, Canada's got a lot of beautiful areas. But you know, we're always a little biased towards our own area, that's for sure. So.
Do you find the endless comments about Wharton Willie annoying after a while?
Well, I don't know whether annoying would be the word. I mean, at home, you know, it's people, you know, you hear it so much. You know, I think a lot of us locals, you know, you kind of roll your eyes. But at the same time, it has put Wharton on the map. And, you know, we still all say we're proud of it. And, you know, it's part of us there. It's, you know, it's just part of our heritage. More than 50 years ago now since the official Wharton Willie Festival started, and it just gets bigger and better every year.
Every year. And it really is kind of the focal point of the entire country, frankly.
Yeah,
so,
yeah, no doubt.
Now, farm life as a kid, what was it like?
Great life, great way to grow up. I raised my kids on the farm too, but a lot of hard work.
Yeah.
I mean, we worked hard when we were kids, but...
What kind of hard work were you doing?
Well, I mean, we... you know, when you're younger, too young to say handle hay bales. I mean, you help mom in the garden, that kind of thing. But no, it's just you know, you always got to have your chores when you come home from school. But it's you know, there's nothing wrong with that. In fact, I think anybody that you know, grows up without that is missing a little something. You know, it doesn't mean that it's a prerequisite, and you know, but I think it's important. It taught me. You know, the fruits of working hard, I think, and I hope that's instilled in my kids as well. So,
did you have a sense that because you could actually see what you planted and you saw the impact of what you grew, did you have a sense that you were really actually making a difference?
Oh, absolutely. Like if you plant a crop in the spring and it comes, you know, to a good crop in the fall, but, you know, it starts right out. I always took great pride when I was planting corn. From the time I was probably 15, I planted all the corn at home, and I wanted the rows as straight, you know, you could shoot a rifle down. And I remember we laugh about it now, but one of my brothers spelled me off at lunch one day. He went down the field once, and you know, and the rows were all crooked afterwards.
Oh,
and
you must have been so
And
upset.
he goes, "Well, what's the difference?" You know, and I go, "Well, to me it was pride, you know." And of course, those rows lined right up with our laneway as you drove in, and everybody knew I planted the corn. They'd say, "Larry, what were you drinking that day?" You know, kind of thing. Of course, joking, but anyway, it was no. It's all part of it. It's pride in having something at the end of the day, you know, and it's, you know, you can use an example in whatever work you do. You know, you could think of an example for your job, you know. So it's just all part of it. And probably my favorite, what I took the most pride in, was spring calving of our cow. We had a cow-calf herd, and you know, bringing a bunch of new calves, you know, into the world was something. You know, a lot of those days were 16, 20-hour days, you know. And
what was involved?
Well, it's just that when, I mean, you feed those cows all year long, and you get one chance to get a calf out of them, and whenever they come. And I mean, if you're not there, or say it's a bad day, you know, she's having trouble, you know, so you just have to be there a lot. Right. And while it's a lot of hard work, there's a lot of you get a great feeling out of it. At least I did anyway. And that's the part I miss the most about because being down in this job, you don't have the same amount of time. But no, I really enjoyed it, even though it was a lot of extra work for about 6 weeks in the spring. So.
Did you think that you would be a farmer yourself, that you'd be in farming for the rest of your life when you were a kid?
I think at a point probably from about 12 on that I probably thought that.
Yeah. What did you want to be before that?
Actually, when I was in high school, I actually was ready to apply and going. I'm an avid outdoorsman. Like, I like hunting and fishing and snowmobiling, anything outdoors. So I was going to apply at Sir Sanford Fleming in Lindsay and basically be a game warden or a biologist, just anything to work outside. It was an excuse to be close to something that I like doing. That was it. And looking back, I think in some ways I wish I might have followed that up, but I have no regrets. I mean, you make decisions in your life, and I've been very fortunate, and we had a good life raising our kids, and, it's there. So. Why
did you make the decision then to go into farming?
Well, I think it was a combination. I remember when I was about 16, I bought my first load of Western calves from Alberta or Saskatchewan, one or the other, but I split that load with my dad, and anyway, the prices, we made a lot of money on that load of cattle, and I thought, wow, this is for me. I don't think I ever made that much money, on that kind of an investment the rest of my years farming. So that was a lot, and I thought, hey, this is good, because I never minded working hard, and to be able to get paid for it was a thing. So that probably was, the big thing in it. So.
How did you meet your wife?
How did I meet my wife? Actually, where I met her the first time, or I seen her the first time, we were probably both, I don't know, we still don't know for sure, around 10 or 11, maybe 12.
Wow, isn't
and
that
my grandma Miller used to run a Bible camp for a couple weeks every summer. And of course, us kids went. And I remember seeing this cute little blonde sitting there, and you know how you... but anyway, it was a few years later, she befriended one of my sisters, my oldest sister, and anyway, I thought, she's 17 now, and she's looking pretty good, And anyway, we got...
How old were you?
I would still be 16, I guess, at the time.
Yeah.
There's 10 months difference between, she's a little older than I am, but, and I always
tease her
kid her about that, about her robbing the cradle, kind of thing. But anyway, she grew up on a dairy farm, basically across the highway, or across the tracks, because there was a railroad track there, and, we always joke about that.
Wow, isn't that something?
Yeah, so,
and have you literally been together ever since you...
Yeah, we started dating, I think maybe she was still 16 as well when we started to date, and we dated for just shy of 3 years, and we were both 19 when we got married.
Amazing.
And I turned 19 on a Monday and got married the following Saturday.
Isn't that something?
Yeah, and this July will be 35 years. So.
And how many kids do you have?
We have 3 sons, 2 granddaughters as well.
Wow.
Our oldest son, he'll be 34 this fall.
You must have been thrilled to have granddaughters after 3
Well,
sons,
actually, yes, we were. We did want a daughter, growing up. But hey, our kids were healthy.
Yeah. And
that's all you can ever, I think, expect. And that's the main thing.
Yeah.
And our granddaughters, just this past Saturday night, we had our oldest one had her 5th birthday.
Isn't that great?
Yep, so I canceled my events and went to that day. You can't miss those. So.
No, you can't. No, you really can't, because the excitement of a little kid about a birthday party is just so huge.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So
Tell me why you got into politics, because it sounds like you enjoy farming, you love being outdoors. Now, when you're back in your constituency, maybe politics is something that you can do outdoors, because there are lots of fairs and lots of events that you attend outside in good weather. But generally, you're inside an awful lot, and it's not farming.
No, and how I got into it, I spent 12 and a half years in municipal government before I got involved federally, and really my involvement in both of them probably started from the same thing. I always had an interest. I can remember coming home from school, when I was 8, 9, 10, and the local paper, we had one daily paper at Owen Sound, always be on the thing, and I always read it. And I just didn't read the comics and stuff. I read it, and I remember my dad saying one day, what the heck are you doing? Why don't you go out and play ball or do something? And I did do a lot of that. I was heavily involved in sports, but I just enjoyed doing that, and I guess it was just an interest in what was going on around me. Wasn't that I was necessarily political, I should say, but I guess I had a knowledge or a keenness to learn about it, and always followed it. And
what do you think it was? What grabbed your attention?
I don't know, really. I guess my dad was kind of the same. I mean, I don't know what he did at that age, but...
Did you talk about it around the kitchen table?
Yeah, I think a little bit. Politics was out there, and an example, we were basically raised as conservatives, but I can remember I followed it close enough when I was probably about 14. Ross Whitcher, who was running a Liberal MP from Wharton, our hometown. And I remember hearing Mom and Dad talking and how Dad was going to support him. And I remember, saying, well, Dad, I thought we were conservative. And his answer was, well, we are. But he said, Ross Whitcher is a good man, and he will do good for our area, and we're going to support him. And I never forgot that. And when I first was old enough to vote, Eddie Sargent was our MPP. He was a Liberal, a former mayor of Owen Sound. And the first time I was old enough to cast a ballot, I voted Liberal, and I didn't base it on parties so much as the man, and he was a great man for the riding. And to me, I think there's, in some cases, too much emphasis today put on the party structure than the person involved, and ironically, Ross Whitcher was the last member from Bruce County to ever chair the Agriculture Committee here in Ottawa, until I came along. So,
isn't that something?
And we're both from the hometown. I think that's really kind of neat,
Yeah, that really is.
Yeah.
What, in your opinion, makes a good politician?
Well, I think you got to be honest, and you got to constituents, people who voted for you. That's how you got there. There's people that'll say, well, it all goes to the popularity of the party, and to a degree, of course, that's true, especially in notoriously swing ridings. But I still think that if you do your job and look after your constituents, that is key to getting elected and getting re-elected. When I was involved in municipal government, I gained a reputation for looking after the little guy. I mean, because as far as I'm concerned, although in stature I may not be, when it comes to how I live and what have you, I'm just one of the little guys, and that's I'm as proud of that as anything. So, that's what I was there for, is the way I looked at it.
Tell me about what it's like for you to be either when you were on council or now in the House of Commons. You have to make the decisions that are the tough ones, and that you might get criticism for when you're walking down the shopping aisles trying to get your groceries, or having your car washed or washing your car. Give me a sense of what that's like.
Well, federally it's certainly tougher, but I think it goes in any level of government. I guess the partisanship. A lot of people that contact your office, when you talk to them, they're very polite. In fact, most people are. But and I see it getting worse in recent years. Maybe it's just because I've been around for a long time. But I see most part, people today, there's generally more of a meanness out there, more of a partisan, which maybe I was naive and didn't notice it before. But again, as I said, most people are polite, and if you explain the issue, when it comes to making a decision on something that's coming through the House, like, you have a number of things. First of all, you got to listen to your constituents, and you try and gauge, what the majority would be satisfied with. You also have to, in some cases, depending on issues of conscience, live with yourself at the end of the day too, if they're those types of things. And then there's the other things that come up that basically for the betterment and the long-term good of the country. I mean, and we are national politicians. And I think that's where sometimes a disconnect can be, where people out there, well, this doesn't affect them, so why would you do that or whatever, And I think it's not to blame them or criticize them. I think it's just from, not a lack of understanding. One thing that I do, I think, more than most politicians, is I call people. Like, I've very, very seldom do I ever actually email somebody myself. If it's a tough issue to explain either in a letter or email, I'll usually pick up the phone and call the person. And I don't know how many people have said to me, you might get a kind of a dirty email or something, somebody's venting, and you call them, and I mean, there's just silence when you call because they can't believe they called you, But people do respect that, even if they're, of another persuasion. I find that people do, and at the end of the day, they always thank you for doing it. They just say, I can't believe you called me. So I do that because I like one-on-one with people. If I got an issue with somebody, I don't email them, what have you. If I can do it in person like this, that's the best route, but sometimes because of distance, you have to use the phone. But at least you're talking directly to them. And that's the way I operate, and I'm not going to change from that.
How important is it to you to be in the riding? Because you're here a lot. You just have no choice.
It's very important. I mean, we have two responsibilities. And to me, my constituents is who I'm, responsible to the most. There's also the party aspect, but there's also the part, in order to represent my constituents, there's a certain amount of that time has to be spent here. And while I'm here, it isn't just to be in the city of Ottawa, it's to be in the Parliament. And my record at votes, my record in the House in attendance is, I'm very, very proud of it, and I'll put it out front for anybody. And you have to do that. If you're on a committee, you got to attend your committee meetings and, stuff like that. There are people who, in my opinion, shirk their duties a little bit there. But it's them that got to live with themselves. I know that I know what I do down here, and I'm going to, continue to do that. I mean, you're getting paid to do that, and without that, it's not right. So.
Where did you get your strong work ethic?
Oh, probably from my dad. My mom too. My mom was, I don't know how she did. She raised 7 kids. Always drove a school bus.
Did she really?
Yeah, well, my mom and dad had bus lines on top, and my mom was always driving, and for the kids that weren't going to school yet, like meaning my younger brothers and sisters,
you tagged them
she
on?
just tucked them in and put them on the bus with her, and brought them back home. That's just the way it was. And
so do you remember going around on a bus as a kid when your mom
Well, the first few years, actually, we walked to a one-room country school. I went to a one-room school until I was grade 6, and then they moved me to a 3-room school for grade 7, and then they built this big addition of 6 rooms onto our school and made it a 9-room I spent grade 8 there, and then, of course, I went to high school. But that one-room school, that was my best part of my education.
Why?
Just, I think it's more personal. Like, I can remember somewhere between 35 and 45 kids in there, 8 grades, and the teacher that looked after us. And I just, I don't know, I think one of the things that I see the biggest is very little or way less peer pressure, for one thing, on kids. And I don't know, I just think it's, there's a bit of innocence to that. I know they closed them all, they called it, for financial reasons, and consolidating is a good thing, but was it better? No, I don't think so. But it's progress, I guess you'd say. You're not going to stop it, but it's like sitting around saying the good old days. Well, they were good old days. I did like that, and so we walked to school the first 3 years. The odd time, if you timed it right, when the high school bus, which ran from Sauble Beach and other places, if you stood in the right place, it would sometimes pick you up and give you a lift home, kind of deal.
If it was a snowstorm, or just if the driver was in a good mood?
Yeah, if it was a really bad snowstorm, it was like we were only a mile and a half away, but you know, when you're 5 or 6 years old, that's, you know, but mom and dad would, or mom would maybe run us down or something. But hey, it wasn't bad. When the snow wasn't up, we could cut through the bush to our place and cut off about 1/4 of a mile, and you could always eat wild apples on the way at the right time of year and things like that. And you'd always see a few deer, you know. But yeah, we found it neat. So.
Tell me about what it was like to arrive in Ottawa as the new MP.
Well, it was pretty overwhelming, I got to admit. I came down here, and I guess you get here, and you know you got the big city because I'm a farm boy, and but I was totally in disarray probably after I found out that, you know, when I went, and I expected them, you know, to have a list of a kind of thing.
Sure.
Here's a list of people, you know, do you want to hire somebody? None of that.
Oh, you had none of that. Almost
literally no help down here. And
so what did you do?
Well, I happened to know Gary Schellenberger was a member from just out of St. Mary's in Stratford area, and I had met Gary once, and so I called him. And he goes, yeah, sure. He said, use my office, come on down there. So that's where I interviewed my first staff, and you know, then, you know, to find.
How'd you find your first staff?
Well, it was amazing. As soon as you got elected, started pouring in resumes. So I guess all the people on the hill or whatever, they knew the thing. So I really didn't have to go looking. It was a matter of, you know, so they kind of came. I think we interviewed half a dozen. And you know, went from there. So that's how that part started. And since then, I've every time we have an election, I mean, any of the new MPs that have come in offices around ours, I make it a point for my staff to go to all of them and say, look, you tell all these people if they need to use our office, you need help, you know, come and do it. 'Cause
no matter what party, you don't mind. You're totally nonpartisan, or?
Well, I'm going to admit that that I haven't. Now, Scott Sims and I, we were both rookies in 2004.
Yeah.
He's Liberal from Newfoundland.
Yeah.
I would consider Scott a good friend.
Yeah.
And his office was right. Yeah, it was funny. Yeah, we've stayed, you know, all them times, you know, and of course give each other a few little days. Roger Cuzner, another great guy.
Yes.
He's now the Liberal whip. He was just across the hall, kind of down a bit, and they're great guys.
Yeah.
You know, sure, we are in different parties, but you know, we still get up and pull our pants on in the morning the same way. So you know, you got to look around that or by that a little bit. So.
What about finding a place to live?
Well, we got. I stayed in a hotel for the first few months, and I got looking at the prices too, and being a cheap old farmer to start with, and then a cheap conservative. I wanted to save money, so by this time I'd met some of my colleagues. We'd become pretty good friends. James Bazan, and he's a beef farmer from Manitoba, and his wife and my wife have become really good friends. And so, you know, I said, you interested in splitting an apartment or something? So the first one we had was down in the market. It was a 4-bedroom, 2-bathroom, and we had it.
Sounds nice.
Well, it was okay. I mean, it wasn't in a great part of town.
So it was nice except for the rats.
Well, we didn't have any problem with that, but I won't get into the reasons why. It was kind of in a noisy part of town. I'll just say that. But anyway, we had that, and but we moved about 3 years ago to a place just up on Queen and Bronson, and we like it there. We got a 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom.
Oh, that's great.
You can have your own privacy, and I mean, you hardly ever see each other.
What do you do if you do see each other? Do you buckle down and watch a show together, or what do you do?
The odd time, maybe once a month, we maybe get lucky enough. We say, hey, let's just have dinner at home tonight. You know,
wow.
So one of us. We just actually did that Monday night, but it doesn't happen as often as probably you'd like to. But
do you get a night off? Ever?
Not really, unless you take one. Okay. I mean, last night I just made a point. I was going to be at home by 8 o'clock, and I did that. It was 5 after 8. I got home, but I took some stuff home and
So it wasn't that you were racing home to watch Desperate Housewives or something?
No, I'm not a TV guy.
You're not, eh?
No, I'm not. I mean, I like to watch the news when I'm at home. Actually, I watched Tom Clark last night, Power Play. When I got home, I watched that and made a couple calls after that and went to bed. But if you... I could have stayed in the office till 11 o'clock, and I used to. My first few years down here, it was just like, you got to do this, and after a while, you start to learn that, hey, you'll kill yourself if you, and I think you plan, I think you learn to manage your time a little better, because when it's all like a whirlwind, it's a learning experience. Even after 5.5 years down here, I still learn things, whether the odd little thing about procedure or whatever. And probably that's some of the things, that keep it interesting.
You are here a lot of the year, so you're missing hunting season sometimes. You're missing...
I will tell you, that is the toughest thing. My dad's not getting any younger, and my 4 brothers and I are pretty close. And we hunt around home as well, but we have a camp on Manitoulin Island. And other than a couple days that I've been able to fit in there, for the most part, I've missed the last 6 hunts. And,
wow.
And if there was one regret at this point, that would be it. And it's not so much about hunting as it is the time with the family. And 2 of my sons are normally up there, and a bunch of my nephews, my brother-in-law. It's a family thing, and
Is it worth that kind of a sacrifice to be doing what you're doing?
Well, I guess how do you when you say worth something, we all think, well, you look at it from a monetary side, and this has nothing to do about money. It's I think at the end of the day, you have to say, if you want to try and do some good or improve things, or do your part to to try and improve things. There are sacrifices, and this is one of them. And I give it a lot of thought. It was my wife fully supports me, and so does my family actually. And without that, it would be much harder to do.
Does your wife ever come down to visit you?
Yeah, she does. And actually, she was here this week. And but she came down with me Sunday, and her and a bunch of the spouses, they took a girls' trip to Montreal. So I haven't seen her other than I talked to her last night.
And you don't want to see your credit card bills.
Yeah, that's right. I just don't show me. So, but anyway, they'll have a good time, and they're going to try and learn some French while they're there. And
that's great.
It'll be good for them. So
that's really great.
Yeah.
What's the best part about your job?
Best part about my job, meeting people. You meet some amazing people in this. Everybody thinks that in politics you meet a lot of bad people. You meet the odd one, but you meet far more, good people than you do that. And the best part of a job, and I guess, is when you take on a task for somebody that has an issue. Especially the more complicated it is, the better if you can be successful. And that's what I tell my staff too, because our staff work under basically negative conditions, because people don't come into the office to say thanks. They come in because they have an issue, and that's just the nature of the beast. And if you can't accept that or live with that, then you're in the wrong industry, if you could say that. So no, if I can solve something for somebody, and you can't solve them all, but you got to try, and or at least be honest enough up front to say, look, we can't, we just can't do anything about this. Never lead somebody on. You got to be frank with them up front, and they may not like it when you first tell them, but they're going to appreciate your honesty anyway. So
I so appreciate you taking the time to be here today.
It's my pleasure, Catherine.
Well, it was a great pleasure to chat with you too.
Okay, all the best.
Thank you.
Take care.